Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Finding Financial Fitness Show. I'm your host, Nino Gonzalez, joined by my co-host, Pei Chen again. And we have a very special guest, Kishor Rao, also goes by Kish. Kish, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, nice to meet you guys. Nice to see you again.
Yeah,
Hi, Kish. It's been a while. It's been a while since we last met and talked, but it's good to see you always.
Likewise.
We've had the privilege, Kish, of meeting you in person a couple times actually, and we've had some really good conversations. You have a unique background, I think personally, both in your W-2 job, which for most people, I don't think, especially in the investment world, they don't really talk too much about their W-2 jobs because they're so adamant on leaving their W-2 jobs. But I think yours is pretty interesting. And then your journey to an investor, and then now what you've done is way beyond what Pei and I have even dreamed about doing as an investor and with your community. So I'm really excited to just learn from you, have people also learn from the conversation we have today. So just start us off. Who's Kish? Tell us a little bit about you, what your day job is. Well, then we'll go into kind of your investor, your nighttime job, if you will.
So I am a tech guy by trade. I've been doing technology since God knows how long, probably before you were born, Nina. But that being said, I do enjoy technology, but I'm getting tired just sitting in front of a laptop talking to people. It's fun solving tech problems. It's no longer a passion of mine, even though I enjoy it. So there's that balance there. And I learned about investing a number of years ago, and I realized this is something I want to do more of. And I started going down this path, and here I am.
Yeah.
Now, was investing something that it's always been with you, or something that like a book or a person that you met along the way that kind of opened your eyes to the opportunity?
So I always thought investing was for rich people. People that had money can only invest. The only, like for W-2 people, you invest in your 401k. You put money into 401k, you invest in stocks, and that's how normal people. Or you could buy a property and you can go rent it out, which is what I did. Little known story. I actually did that back in the early 2000s. I purchased a condo and my brother lived in it for 4 years and he paid me rent instead of anybody else. But at that time, I never thought about myself as a real estate investor or an entrepreneur. I thought about myself as I'm helping my brother out. Instead of him paying somebody else, he pays me. I get that rent money and then I can sell it and make that money back. So I thought about it in that perspective. Never imagined I would be doing this. I was doing that, but bigger and bigger. But that was a long time ago.
Speaking of bigger and bigger, obviously that's where you started. And I know now, fast forward 20 odd years later, and you've done and are currently doing multifamily syndication. So talk to me about, okay, you originally started with, like you said, it wasn't a goal of making passive income. It was mainly to help. You wanted to help out family. So what came after that? At what point did kind of a light switch go on? Then you realized, hey, maybe I can make some money out of this if I scale this, or maybe get another one or two properties. Or how did you decide to then get into multifamily? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I did want to get more into real estate. I started getting a little bit of extra cash I could play with. We could talk about that afterwards. But I decided to go with a company that I know very well, Spartan Invest, and I ended up getting a single family home through them. And the reason why I like that model was because I'm what you call a lazy investor, where somebody else does all the work for me. I could just sit back and relax and see the cash flow come in. It's a great concept. Unfortunately for me, it was 4 months before we had a tenant. So for those 4 months, there was no cash flow, but it finally started coming in. I started seeing my returns coming in every month, and it was great. Then I got a second one, ironically the same year. So I had two properties, and they were cash flowing well, and I loved it. Problem was that it was a lot of effort to get one property, and the impact was very little compared to how much effort it took. So thinking about that, I figured, how can I scale this better? I don't know how. I heard about it. Maybe Grant Cardone or somebody on his caliber was talking about apartments. So I figured, let me see what I can do there. So I invested in an apartment. Not a lot, maybe 25K. And I'm like, wow. So I put in 25K, a little bit higher than what I put for the down payment, but the returns were better. And I had no work to do. And it was safe and it was multiple doors. And I could actually say I'm part of a syndicate that owns 46 stores. wow, much easier, much faster and safer than single family. Now, that was right before COVID. COVID came and the operators didn't do a great job handling that because they didn't know how to. It wasn't their fault at all. So I did exit. I did make some money, so I was happy about that. But I did exit early. I was given that opportunity, and I took my proceeds and dumped it into another property. This one, within 18 months, it doubled in profit. I'm thinking, okay, it doubled. I told my wife this, we put in X amount, and then a year and a half later, it doubled that. She's like, we can do more of that. I'm like, yeah, me too. So that was my forte into it. So that's why I love multifamily. It's much safer. I think the amount of effort it takes is a little bit more than a single family property, but you get a lot more doors and the payout's a lot better and it's safer and it's great for a long term. Plus you get cash flow and equity, not to mention the tax benefits. So there's so many benefits.
So are you invested through a fund style, or are you more involved? Because you kind of mentioned how to do the turnkey property route, it was a little bit more work involved. So I just wanted to clarify from you, like what work are you talking about?
Okay, so I do passive investing
Mhm.
with other operators where I give them my money and they take that and they invest it in different properties all around the United States. But not just that, because I like it so much, I want to be on the other side. I want to be an operator. So me and a number of friends, we got together and started our own multifamily acquisition group, and we're called Goya 7 Capital. And our goal is to acquire properties, build value out of it, and make cash flow. And if we get investors to come in and help us with this, then we will make sure they make cash flow as well.
Actually, I do remember you sharing an ebook that you had wrote about this. You want to tell our listeners how they might be able to get a copy of that? We could also put it in the show notes, right, Nino?
Absolutely. So yeah, so there'll be a link in the show notes. But I did write a book on syndications and how it works and the different types and what an LP is and what a GP is and how LPs make money. And I went into a lot more detail and I even had some examples, but all this information is in the show notes. And this book is completely free. It's just download it and read it and then come back to me with questions if you want. But I did this because people wanted to learn. And me and my core is just educating people. Just want to help. And if this helps people learn, and if they want to invest with me later in the future, I love it. And if they want to invest with somebody else, I love it because I've empowered them to do something better in their lives. So for me, it's a win either way.
Yeah, and I know that that's something, and that's a big part of the reason why we both wanted to have you on the show, because you are so interested in just sharing and giving more information and helping people, just kind of with the investment club that you created and kind of host, which I want to get back to, or I want to get to a little bit, but I wanted to just go back to kind of finishing off on the main points between single family and multifamily. So on the show so far, we have breached a little bit into the subject of real estate. We've talked about mainly single family rentals. Right now, you mentioned about the effort required, and it sounds like because the amount of money you would need to save to build enough for a down payment on a home takes you a lot longer than, say, if you're having that same amount and you could spread it across multiple doors. Is that correct in what you're saying, that it diversifies and it keeps you a little bit safer because you're not just putting all of your hard-earned saved money into one door hoping that it will cash flow? You're spreading it across maybe a quad or a fourplex, and that allows you to diversify that risk. Is that correct?
Correct. So think about this way. So if you have a single family home, which I have a couple of them, and something happens, the tenant moves out and it's empty. Or in my case, there was an eviction. So the place was actually empty for 6 months. And during that 6 months, guess what? Zero cash flow. So I was in the red the whole time. In that perspective, it's a horrible investment. Although, I was still paying down the mortgage, I was still building equity, and it is appreciating over time, the property value. But as far as cash flow is concerned, I was definitely in the red. So no fun there. However, let's talk about multifamily. Let's just say a simple, fourplex. Like you just said, if you have a fourplex and if one person leaves or they get evicted or something happens, you're still making money off 3 other units. So money is still coming in and you're not in the red as much as you would be in a single family turnkey property. So for me, I saw that as for me, that was a big thing because I love passive income. I love seeing money coming in every month. And when I don't, I figure let's see what we can do to solve that. Now, with the multifamily, the chances of it being completely no cash flow is slim to none. It's really bad decision making at that point, but there's always going to be cash flow coming in. So that's why I'm pivoting towards multifamily as my go-to real estate.
So would you say, and I love that because I think we have listeners who are on who maybe are doing some smaller investments and are wanting to get into real estate, but maybe they have that concern that you just mentioned. Well, if I invest in this one single family home, and what happens if tenants evicted and then now I'm negatively cash flowing, and maybe I'm not in the best neighborhood and the appreciation isn't what you would expect in an A minus B plus type of category. So I like the concept of multifamily, specifically multifamily syndications, where it is very, especially as you're becoming or maybe transitioning from W-2 to an investor, or it's your first time investing in an actual deal, you probably don't have the time to go out and market and manage and do all these different contexts with short-term family or even multifamily. So I like the ability to have the syndication aspect to it. So I definitely would encourage people, if they're interested, to reach out to you because you have some unique opportunities. I say you're always doing the dirty work, right? I'm okay with sitting back and giving somebody my money if they're going to pay me. I want everyone to get paid correctly. I want you to get paid for the dirty work that you're doing, for vetting the properties, for making sure the tenants are paying. I consider that dirty work. If I just get my paycheck every month, my direct deposit, so be it. It makes life a lot smoother, especially for people who are just starting out in this field. And I wish that I had known about these opportunities sooner, because we talked about Rich Dad Poor Dad multiple times on this podcast. And I think most people, when they read the book, they then say, all right, time to get into real estate investing. And then they go Google real estate investing, and there's just a plethora of opportunities, right? I think you had mentioned that you read that book as well. So I love that. I love the multifamily aspect to what you're doing and what you're sharing.
And like I said, there's nothing wrong with single family rentals. There's a lot of people that do that and they're very comfortable with that. And that's great because I started off that way too. But for me, what I buy box, what I like to do is multifamily. But there's
Gotcha.
so many opportunities. So as long as you're doing something, it doesn't matter what you do. So
That's true.
And I love that, you're willing to share your experience and knowledge with other people, because a lot of people, they kind of have that scarcity mindset, right? But I find that for the couple times that I met you and talked to you, I always feel like you're just so giving, that epitome of that go-giver concept. Like you embody that really well. And that's why, I know that the purpose of you, educating other people, you're not looking to collect an affiliation fee or whatever, right? You're not doing it just to make a quick dollar. You're here because you're invested in their success, which is huge. And I think it's very rare out there. That's why, like, when we learn about what you formed, maybe you can talk a little bit about, why you started your investment club and how it got started and the success that it has today. I think our listeners would love to hear that journey of yours.
sure, love to. So I work at a tech company, and tech company has 30,000 plus employees. And the people that I work closely with, I talk to them about some of the stuff I'm working on, the real estate stuff. And I realize most of them have no idea what I'm talking about, or they've heard of it, but they really can't talk at my level. So I'm thinking, what does that mean? So when I ask them, how do you guys make money? What are your thoughts on side hustles? They're like, well, we can buy a rental property. We'll buy a property. We'll rent it out. We'll do the marketing. We'll find the tenants. We'll do all the work. And I'm thinking, well, okay, that is one way of doing it, but there's many ways of doing it. So that made me realize that we're not educated. And I am part of a couple of masterminds. And I figured, you know what? Let me just start a club. I'm a big tech company. There is a chess club, there's fitness club, there's finance clubs, there's even a Wordle club, but there's no like an investor club or real estate club. So I figured, you know what? Let me just start that up. And I did. And within the first day, I got 100 people to sign up, all across my company, which I figured was fantastic because I don't market anything.
Yeah.
I just put it out there, and then within 24 hours, there's 100 people that signed up. And I started this about 2.5 years ago. My club is a little bit different and unique because I bring people from the outside. I bring investors in. I bring CEOs. I bring founders. They come in and they speak at my club. And I let them know that I have a number of tech employees that are interested in learning about different asset classes, how to invest, and they just want to learn and be empowered because nobody teaches this stuff. Yeah, you can learn it on YouTube, sure, to a point, but you can choose. You want to learn it on YouTube, or you want to go to one of Kish's meetups and listen to somebody and have the opportunity to talk to them live.
Ask questions.
And that's the value that I provide. And people love that. People eat that up. So club grew to about 1,000, maybe a little over 1,000 people right now. And I have plans to grow that even more. But I've had at least 30, 40 people that have spoken at my club, and everybody loves it. I had one person, club member, talk about me and my club. And she said that because of me, she never invested before. However, after she joined my club, she's done 3 syndications and 3 investments. So
Nice.
huge impact. So
And that must be very rewarding just for you to be. And I think that's why, again, why I wanted to have you on. We have kind of similar beliefs in the sense that we practice and we share what we've done, right? There's times where you'll find people who will share companies, products that they themselves have never used, right? Whereas I know with you, it's if you're going to recommend something or if you're going to have somebody on, it's because you've either personally dealt with them and invested with them, or you're strongly considering to do so. And that's the message you want to share. I've always thought it's ironic to have that within a W-2 company, because truly, if people are taking the information and really running with it, then they're going to create so much passive income that they can then leave said W-2 job where they met you and joined the club. But I think it is ironic, but I think that's awesome.
But I would say any company that's confident in what they're doing, their company vision, how they run and handle the company, they should confidently have something like this, because you actually end up weeding out employees who shouldn't even be there. Right? Imagine if you have a bunch of employees who are working for you that are not reliant on you for that paycheck. They're there because they love the work. They're financially free, separate from the paycheck. They love the work culture. They love the people there, and they feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. You create a much stronger company, right? Than if you were just trying to hide this information from your employee, hope that you can, kind of lock them up and trap them in there because of that measly annual income raise, right? To kind of like, hey, dangle that carrot in front of them so that they don't leave you, right? So I feel like a more self-aware type employer should offer something like this for their employee, right? You're already offering the wellness part, right? You want your employee to be healthy. You have them on the insurance, health insurance plan, because you don't want them to be sick and not coming to work, obviously. But in this sense, their financial fitness is also a big part of them being a productive member of, your company. So I think that's very clever of Kish's company to offer the opportunity for their employees to do something like that.
I had lunch with a colleague of mine about 6 to 8 months ago, and he was telling me, Kish, when we have new people that don't get onboarded, they need to, HR needs to give them a choice: sign up for the 401k or sign up for Kish's real estate club.
But nowadays, some companies, isn't the rule change with 401k? It's like mandatory by default. You're sign up when you're
you have to actively.
You have to opt out.
Correct. Instead of giving the option. And that's, you're right. You're right.
That's been around since day one. That's been even in my, so yeah, every time you join a new company, if you don't make any changes, you'll automatically be opted in. Correct. You have to actively opt out.
Yeah.
Crazy. So Kish, tell me what type, you mentioned you have speakers, and, I'm on the email list. I try to join those calls whenever I can, every Wednesday. So what type of speakers do you have?
All sorts. So I started off with multifamily, just people in my network, people talking about multifamily. I branched off to, I have mortgage notes. I have people that invest in mortgage notes. They came in and spoke, I know at least three different ways of doing that. So I had three different speakers to come in and talk about mortgage notes. And I had people talking about residential assisted living. I had someone come in and talk about taxes, tax strategies. I had so all sorts of different asset classes. It's not just one or the other. The reason why I do that is because there's certain asset classes that may align with certain investors or certain tech employees, whereas others may not. So I like multifamily. There might be people out there that may be like, I don't want to do multifamily. It's a little scary. But when I tell them, oh, somebody talking about, single family rentals or mortgage notes, they'll be like, ooh, I like the mortgage notes because I don't need to deal with anything. That's just
Right.
pieces of paper. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much it. And they like that. So it's, I want to make sure it's a diverse group. I do have a lot of different people. My network has been growing. I do reach out to, people in my network every week and say, hey, tell me about people that who can I talk to? And just that's how I build my network. That's how I get people to talk at my club. But I try to get a mix of different types of, asset classes, different types of personalities to just have conversations.
I like that. Yeah, that's cool. And I think that by
Awesome.
doing that, you're giving such a unique opportunity to people, right, to be able to learn about that. And then also for you, you're also learning yourself, right? You're having conversations that you probably would have with people anyway, similar to kind of what we do on this podcast, where we just talk to people that we want to learn more about because we find value. You bring value to us, and we want to then bring that value to others. And with that, from the knowledge you've gained from people you've spoken with the experience you have in your own investments, and obviously you're part of a few masterminds as well, what do you feel what does wealth mean to you based on what you've seen with people that are successful in the passive income space, people that are barely starting out and maybe live paycheck to paycheck? How do you define wealth, and what does wealth mean to you?
I mean, wealth has nothing to do about money for me. Wealth has to do with options. I want to make sure I have options. When I was growing up, it was difficult because the options were very limited because of parents' paychecks or my dad's paycheck. And he was struggling. He was doing the best that he could. And I love my father for that. But for me, I've learned a lot within the last 6-7 years. That's when I started pivoting. And wealth means I have options. So if I want to be able to, I don't know, take my family, on a weekend cruise or a weekend, getaway to something, or if, my daughter is going into college next year, or if I want to take my wife away for the weekend, or, help a family member out that needs help with something. I have the option to say yes or no. I can do that. Back before when I didn't have money coming in, or it was harder for my parents, those options weren't there. And they did the best that they can, but I want to be able to know that I have this option to do. I want to have the option to say, okay, I love what I'm doing at work, but I have the option to leave if I wanted to, or, or anything, that's wealth and, for me in a nutshell, having options.
So along the same line of that, question of wealth, same question with success, right? Because success doesn't necessarily mean wealth for everyone. So what does success mean to you, and how has that changed, and if it even changed over time for you?
Yeah, success really depends on context. Are we talking career? Are we talking business? Are we talking family? Are we talking community? Are we talking friends? So there's so many different ways to look at success. Most people think, what's the primary thing everybody does? They work, they make money. So that's what people think, oh, we're talking success there. So for me, success is knowing that, if something happens to me in my job, that I can still continue to live the lifestyle that we're living without missing a beat. I can still, take my family to India to see our relatives and extended family over there if I have to. Success for me, I guess, means I do have all the options. That I do have the option to do whatever I want to do, whether it's family related or if I want to volunteer someplace or donate to a charity which I love or come down to Houston to hang out with my friends. But yeah, for me, that is success. But actually, the biggest thing right now, I guess I should say that I'm thinking about it is, having closeness with my family, with my wife, with my children, making sure that they're happy. If they're happy, I'm happy.
Yeah, that's so, I mean, it's so awesome to hear because again, obviously on actually one of our previous episodes, Pay and I were talking about how people often think that if they win the lottery or if they get this large inheritance from a family member, that that's going to resolve all of their problems and that's going to make things easier. Now, if you're strategic with it and you know how to use it, yeah, that will make things easier. But what you talk about, Kish, is the main thing that I'm hearing is values and how you value spending time with your family, how you value your time, how you value being able to have these options. And that doesn't only come with money. Sure, money can make that easier and can make it more attainable, but that comes from growth and that comes from understanding what your own values are. That comes from introspection, and that's something that I've always valued about you as just as a person. I think that that's so important because the more people can hear definitions of success, the more people can then morph and create their own definition of success. Because you're right, at the end of the day, it is all individual, right? Your definition is going to be different than mine. It's going to be different from Pay's. But when you start seeing people who are, I would say, normal people, right? The three of us here, we've had regular jobs, still do have W-2 jobs that we're working and we're trying to provide, but we're using this passive income as an outlet to get us to that next level and get us to that achievement status that we ultimately will deem will be enough. And that way we feel like we've accomplished and can really step into our fulfillment of life. So I think it's so important.
And I noticed that, Kish, none of what you said had a number attached to it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It was just we are so, because of the community that we're all part of. It sometimes gets really bogged down to numbers, right?
Yeah.
And I think one of the episodes we talked about how, like, if you don't understand the concept, the numbers don't matter. Right? But if you understand the concept, again, numbers won't matter, right? So even in our mind, when we're talking about success and wealth, like setting a number, like, oh, if I have $1 million, then I'm wealthy or I'm successful. It really means nothing when you have obtained that. And I think we kind of gone through that a little bit personally. Like, we used to set, like, hey, if I can, make X dollar amount per month, then I made it, or whatever. And we're starting, at least personally, I'm starting to discover that it's a lot more than that, right? It's not just a number that we're trying to reach. Obviously, it's good to have milestones along the way to kind of show you where you need to be. But most of what we're trying to pursue here is not really tangible, I'm beginning to feel.
Yeah, especially hearing it more and more. And also for me, it's about, I like, reading a lot more and more, which brings me to Kish. In our investment community, you are known as the book guy, right? We have Kish's book club. So every time you illegally hack into Amazon's account and get us free books and free device, every time you have free books, and I appreciate that. So tell me, because I know you like to read and I like to listen to books, what are some of the best books that you would recommend people to listen if they want to listen on a Kindle or Audible, or read itself? What are some best books?
Okay, so I'm not going to mention the Purple Book. Everyone knows about that. We also have the Becoming Your Own Banker. Love that book too, with all about infinite banking. One of my favorite all-time books ever, and it's a great story, and I made my kids read it, is The Go-Giver by John Mann. And one of my absolute favorites, and definitely tell people to read that if they haven't yet already.
I've never read that book.
You never read that book, Nina?
I have not. Nope.
Oh,
So
you need to.
Yeah.
That's a good book. And it's not even long. It's a story.
It's a story. It's a short book. It's a great story, but the message is really deep. And for me, it hit home because it gelled with everything I do, gelled with my core, which is why I'm doing everything I'm doing, because I love to give, I love to share. And I do believe that things will come back to me, later on. Or maybe it's coming back to me now. I don't know. But that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I love giving. I love helping. Even my tech job, I work as a support manager where I support people. I help solve problems. I help people fix issues so they can continue moving on and move up. That's me in a nutshell. So that
Does your
book,
family ever ask you why you're doing all this? Like, I'm sure it takes time away, right?
absolutely
Mhm.
happens all the time. And I tell them, it just brings my name out there. They're like, oh, Keisha's talking about this, Keisha's doing this. It helps build some credibility with me. So when I talk about something, when I tell people about maybe an apartment opportunity. So yeah, my family does ask me about why I'm doing all these things, and I tell people it's about, building a brand, building my name, building my credibility, letting people know that this is what I do, this is how I help people, and when I have opportunities like my multifamily or anything else I'm working on, there's more trust factor because they know Kish has been running a club. Kish has been bringing good people. Kish will always make time to talk to people, which is what I do. And, it'll eventually come back to me. And I think my wife's seeing that and my kids are seeing that slowly, but they don't, it takes time away.
Yeah.
So
And I
it's
think,
that.
yeah, no, I definitely think it is. And I think for you, from the first time that I met you, I think all of this is leading to you to eventually finally stop flying Spirit. I we have this running joke, Keys, from when you first came down to Houston. This was maybe 9 months ago now. And I asked you how your flight was, and you're like, "Oh, I flew Spirit." And I'm thinking, this guy has enough money to fly on a decent airline. He had to pay for his own bag. He had to pay for all these different things. So to this day, I always love giving you a hard time, Kish, because ultimately I joke around about it, but it just goes to show that no matter what kind of wealth you have, our natural instinct is let's save money, right? Because that's what brought us to this success. It's let's save money if we can. Because I know you probably could have taken a first class or business class American Airlines flight and paid 4 or 5 times as much for a little bit of a wider seat, but you were just as fine. You didn't have any complaints. You had a good flight, and I love that. It just embodies your attitude, your positive attitude about things, which is why I love to give you a hard time about it. So Kish, let's tell the listeners where they can go to find you. We'll drop all this in the show notes, but email, website, book club, your weekly meetings, how can people go get if they wanted to get in contact with you?
Very simple. Just go to www.meetwithkish.com. Go there, set up a call with me, let them know that you found me on your show, and I'll have a conversation. And I love talking about infinite banking, love talking about multifamily, passive income. If you want to talk about my club that I started at work is actually open to the public, so anybody can join if they want to. So originally it started exclusively where I worked, but now it's no longer that way. So my friends, family, anybody out there can join if they want to. So start with meetwithkish.com. Any other links I'll have in the show notes for you.
And before we let you go, I just want to hear what your vision for yourself and your investment club is going to be for the next 3 to 5 years. Like, what are you hoping to accomplish?
For my club right now, I want to grow to make it bigger. I want to have people coming to me to talk at my club. I want people to know that, Kish is providing so much value that, they just want to learn from everything I have to offer. My target audience, believe it or not, is not investors like us. It's for people that don't know how to invest, that want to learn, that are younger, that don't know where to begin. This stuff isn't taught anywhere in schools. It's not taught in college. And I'd love to be that go-to person. Like, right after college, people be like, oh, join this club to learn how to invest, to host running it, well, have conversations and then provide guidance, be a mentor, be a coach and just help others and empower them to invest and make money. Make it a win-win for everyone.
And on the personal side, for yourself?
Spend as much time with my wife and children as possible. I'm gonna do less work, so to speak. I'm working on setting up systems so my money makes money for me, so I can just sit back and relax and be with my wife, be with my children, spend time with them.
Be present.
Be present. And I highly encourage just setting up a time to speak with him, because it's weird for me. It is weird because you typically think when someone has a meeting link that you're meeting with them to hear their sales pitch. But with Kish, you're meeting with him just to talk to him. You could say, hey, I've heard about IBC on the show. I heard about multifamily on another podcast. I'm not really sure how to implement this. And Kish will be willing to sit down and just talk with you and get to know your story. And I've done it myself, just been able to ask and pick his brain. And it helps me with my investment journey to get to where I'm at. Like I said, I had the privilege with pay of meeting him over dinner and chatting. So I think it's just a great opportunity. As you can hear, I'm sure most people would have gathered by now that Kish is just a genuinely nice guy, good family man, good role model, good values, and that's something that I aspire to be and try to implement in my life as well. So Kish, I just wanted to say thank you again for joining, bringing value to this show, bringing value to people, and I really hope people will go and tune in and they have so much to learn from what you're doing with your club, and there's so much there. Thanks.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I love that, Kish and I, we've known each other for a number of years, actually be quite a few years. And
2020 we met.
yeah. And so I was one of the lucky ones who did not have to go to his link to meet him. I met him before. But Kish is solid, and he's just go-giver through and through. Like, I look up to Kish.
Yes. What would Kish do? That's my slogan.
That's it.
Kish, it's been a pleasure, man. Thanks so much. And thank you everybody for tuning in. Stay tuned for more episodes. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me. Take care. Have a good one.
Thank you.